So just yesterday, Robin Williams passed away. Normally, I don't get personally affected by celebrity death. It's always a sad thing. It's always tragic. And I understand the grieving. But for me, Robin Williams was a very different sort of celebrity. I don't think there's been a time in my life when I did not know who Robin Williams was. He was very formative in my childhood, in my development growing up. A lot of people remember him from Aladdin, one of his admittedly infamous roles, or Hook, or Jumanji, or Mrs. Doubtfire, or any of the numerous movies that he made over the years. What Dreams May Come, Dead Poet Society. So many movies that showcased incredible talent. And they were very pervasive for me when I was growing up. And I loved them. I loved everything that I saw him in. So with him passing away, I felt the need to speak a little bit candidly. So you're not going to see a lot of fancy editing here. It's not scripted. I'm just speaking. Especially because a lot of discussion has come up around his death about depression and suicide. And I think it's important to keep that discussion going, because it's not talked about at great length. It's not something that people want to examine very much. And it's still very deeply stigmatized. A lot of people still don't understand, even though we understand it a lot better now than we ever have. People still don't really understand how depression can affect someone. And I want to point out, Robin Williams was bipolar. Depression is a separate mental illness, and they both need to be treated differently. And I want to make that clear before I start talking about this. I can only speak from the perspective of someone who deals with clinical depression. But the stigma around mental illness needs to be talked about. And a lot of the discussion has been, how can Robin Williams want to take his own life? A lot of people have gotten really nasty about it, have been, well, he's, famous, he's rich, he's got all of these movies out there, what does he have to be depressed about? That's not how depression works. A lot of people have come out speaking about it. I don't know how many of them get heard for saying this. A lot of people are shocked when celebrities come out as having been depressed or bipolar or having experienced some sort of mental illness in their lives. Depression isn't a straight path. It's not cause A results in reaction B. It's not like it's not caused necessarily by anything. Some things, like an actual episode of depression, doesn't need to be necessarily caused by anything. Sometimes it is, and sometimes the trigger for a depressive episode, it can be minor. It can be very small. But the point is that depression is a mental illness, as in there is something that is not firing right. There are chemicals that are screwing everything up. There are chemicals that are making it impossible to think clearly. Everyone experiences sadness. everyone gets to that really low point, and I don't mean to mean anyone's sadness. Everyone has hit that low point at some point. Everyone has felt like their heart has been ripped out of their chest, like their head is aching because they can't even think because of how awful everything is. The best way that I can describe what it means to be clinically depressed versus being neurotypical is that if you're neurotypical and you feel unhappy, you can compartmentalize it. You can go, okay, but there are still things that I have to do. Or, okay, think positive and, and things will get better. And in many cases, that's true. When you're depressed, all of those negative thoughts, all of those hurtful, hateful things that many people can even just, dismiss. Just say, I don't care what other people say about me, or it doesn't matter because they're not important to me, or things like that. When you're depressed, those things stay. They don't leave. Instead of being able to move past hurtful things, instead of being able to move past the things that you may say about yourself, the negative thoughts, the negativity, it just keeps rattling about inside your head until you can't think about anything else. And it's hard to try and convey what it's like to be trapped in that to someone who's never been forced to have to deal with those thoughts. It's not an easy thing to connect when it's not something you've been through. But that's what it is. It's an illness. I mean, when you're sick with the flu, you can't control that you have a fever. You can't control that, you feel like you can't breathe. You can't control that your lungs are clogged or that your nose is running. These are just involuntary aspects of being sick. With mental illness, it's just not the symptoms that everyone happens to agree upon as signs of illness, because it is stigmatized and a lot of people are not taught to listen to it. When someone starts talking about being depressed or being, having a manic episode or a depressive episode, if you happen to be bipolar. And there are many more mental illnesses out there. I can only speak from my own. So I don't want to get into some of the other mental illnesses out there because I am not a platform of knowledge in that regard. But there are things that they go haywire and you can't control it and it gets out of hand, it consumes you. It takes every part of your life. And then when every part of your life is a struggle against your own way of thinking, when you hate yourself, when you wake up in the morning and you go, I want to go back to sleep, when you don't have any energy because literally your brain is working against you and you're trying to fire every last bit of energy left in your cells just to function, it's exhausting. It's a struggle. It is a fight, a war within your own head that most of the time, a lot of depressed people are not gonna telegraph. Some people do, and then they hear, from their friends and family, well, it's not that bad, you can just get over it. So they don't talk about it. Or, buck up, you can cheer up out of this isn't that bad. This is, a small thing, you'll get past it in time. So when we're told that, we don't feel like talking about it anymore because it makes us feel like maybe it is all in our heads. And it is, but it's what prohibits us from functioning. And I can go to work and I can smile and I can have a really bad day. I can come in feeling like I want to hang myself. And I mean that. I've had those days. But in order to function, in order to keep going, I turn on my customer service mode and I'm, "Hi, how are you today?" Even when inside my head I'm just screaming endlessly because I just cannot stand being who I am when I'm in a depressive episode. It's not something that can be controlled, but we can mask it pretty damn well. And that kind of ties back to a lot of the discussion about Robin Williams. Because when we see him, he's always got all of this manic energy. He's always so, on top of his game. He's cracking jokes. He seems so positive. And then for him to take his life, it seems so incongruent with what we expect. It seems like something that should not happen to someone that seems that happy. And that's exactly it, is that very often, we put on the mask. We go out into the world. We pretend it doesn't hurt as bad as it does. And sometimes we can get so good at pretending that we even believe it for a few minutes. We believe it for a little while that we're not actually as bad off as we think, and we go on with our daily lives and we keep acting like nothing is wrong. But then something happens, or even just we see something sad, or we think of something sad, or we remember something embarrassing that we've done, or someone doesn't talk to us for a few days, or someone sends us a message that is hateful or something along those lines, and it comes crashing down again. And it hits, 3 times as hard, because why? I was so happy. I was okay. I was dealing with it. And then it goes away again, and it evaporates like as if it was never there. Any of that happiness. I have dysthymic depression. Basically, I have a lot of the same mood traveling that can happen with bipolar, but I don't really have a manic side to it. My baseline is usually fairly depressed, but functioning. And then I can swing pretty damn low pretty quickly. And that kind of rapid change is dangerous. And for many people, it's lethal. And I think it needs to be talked about more often. I think that, I do my Let's Plays, I record my videos, and I work as hard as I can, but, I just speaking from my own experience, if the motivation isn't there, I can't do it. I can't force myself to be happy. I can't force myself to have the energy to do something that I can't do. Which is why I have had some long absences in terms of updates on my channel. Among other things. The thing is that stress and other things will trigger that too. If you're having a physically demanding thing, all sorts of factors can go into triggering anxiety, which is another problem of mine, and depression. And I'm speaking candidly because I want you guys to know that, my Let's Playing has been some of the best stuff I've ever done. And I've said it before, and it may sound pathetic. It may sound wretched. It may sound really silly. But I enjoy, playing video games, recording it, and sharing it. I admittedly thrive on feedback. When you guys comment on my videos, it makes me very happy. I love hearing from you guys. And it's one of the reasons why I still want to record my videos. I still want to Let's Play. I have a lot of trouble getting up the energy to put on that face, to put on the voice that sounds, energized and enthusiastic and, really happy to be doing it. And I don't want to put out videos where I'm like, hey guys, welcome back to this. It's another installment of this, and I'm doing this again, and blah, blah, blah. I don't think anyone wants to hear that, myself included. But, I think that, finding the things that we love doing, finding the things that we enjoy, things that make us happy, is few and far between. Sometimes. And even when we have the things that we love, sometimes what depression does is that it gets into your head and it makes you unable to enjoy those things anymore. It stops you from being able to focus on what you need. I mean, you can even start off with, hey, here's this project that I'm really excited for, and I really, really want to get this done, and I want to get this, I want to do this. And then this switch flips. Apparently my words switch around too. Something changes. And it's like, do I have to? I mean, I said I wanted to, and I do, but I don't feel like it. Not to say that we all become whiny, but there's a part of our brain that just starts fighting every aspect of our motivation. It's like trying to turn a key in an engine, in a car, and you're trying to get the engine to turn over and it doesn't work. Like, literally, there is something between, like, I'm trying to turn that key. I want to have the motivation. I want to do things. I want to follow my ambitions, and I want to do everything I possibly can to make my dreams happen. But something has cut the wire, or something. I don't know much about cars, I gotta admit. But there's a disconnect between, the ignition and the engine. The engine does not start. It doesn't go. I could supply all the fuel that it needs. I can, do everything I can to try and make sure that the car is in peak condition, but as long as there's that disconnect, the car will not run. My motivation cannot be forced. No one's motivation when they're depressed can be forced. And that's why you have the people who are excessively, they have cluttered rooms, they have, messy lifestyles, they have so many different ways that depression can manifest, that if you don't know what's going on inside their heads, can come across as laziness, can come across as vindictiveness, because the other thing with depression is, again, everyone's, experience is different, but there's a certain paranoia that builds up too, and of course when you're triggered and you're hating yourself and all of that messy emotional stuff is clogging up your thoughts and destroying you from the inside out, you can end up lashing out at other people. And there's it makes it worse, because afterwards you're like, did I just say that? oh my God, I just said that. I'm a horrible person. I have hurt someone who cares about me, who is trying to help me. And now it makes it worse. It compounds it and makes it 10 times worse because now you feel guilty. So, you know, I wanted to talk about this because I want to make sure that you guys understand. Many of you do already. But I want to make sure that everyone understands. Don't tell a depressed person to just get over it. Because believe me, if that were an option, we would be taking it. No one wants to be stuck with all of that negativity. No one wants to be focused on hating themselves. No one wants to not be able to do what they want to do, what they love doing. Don't tell someone, oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, that really must hurt. I'm so sorry. Because you mean well. And that will also come across, just speaking again as a depressed person, it will come across. We will understand that you're trying to reach out, but it's from a place of pity. And that again makes it feel like it's our fault. Like as if we're not trying hard enough, or maybe like we're infants or children who need to be, you know, patted on the head and be told, it's okay. Now that I've said the nice thing, you can go on and keep being happy. Obviously, it doesn't work that way. I know I've been rambling for a long time about this. Like I said, this is a very candid video about this. It's a tough thing for me to lose Robin Williams as not just a celebrity, but as a figure that's been there, you know, my entire life. I grew up watching his movies, listening to his stand-up. And it not only hits home because he was so much, I mean, part of why I enjoy acting and voiceover work is because of the energy he brought to his work. So to lose that is personally upsetting to me. But to know that he was suffering, to know that he was in a place where he needed to shut off, that hits really close to home for me, because I've been there. And I don't talk about it very much. And I don't really want to talk about it in depth either. But once you get to that point, there's this really weird calm. There's a really strange serenity in thinking it'll be over soon. There's anticipation for the first time in a long time. I don't know what his final moments were like. I don't know what went through his head. But I do know what it's like to be happy, to be in a better headspace than normal, and then suddenly not be able to do it anymore. And no one should have to go through that alone. No one should have to go through that and experience that serenity because they want to just shut off. And that's why depression and other mental illness needs to be talked about. And why it's not a simple, straight path, and why it's not an easy thing to convey. It needs to be talked about because you need to have some kind of baseline understanding of how it kills you every day. Just to function when your brain is not functioning. Because it's not like a physical illness or like an injury. You can't just wrap a Band-Aid around it and keep going. And medication can help, but there's no guarantee, and it can take a while for medication to truly kick in and do its job. And it's hard because between not having like an easy, truly effective treatment, and between the general ignorance that people have about, and I don't say ignorance as in, oh, you guys are just ignorant and just don't understand. I mean that we don't have this discussion very much. As a culture, in our media, depression is not really addressed in a healthy way. And so, people with depression close off. And they don't talk about it. And they don't want to involve other people because now it becomes a burden on other people. And don't tell me that other people don't tell depressed people, well, why did you tell me that? Now I'm sad. I've had that happen. Pretty much every depressed person has. And if it's not that, then it's the, oh, well, you're just whiny. Oh, you're just not dealing with it. You just want attention. Yeah, sometimes I do want attention. Because just like if I broke my arm, I would want medical attention. The things that are broken in me sometimes need social attention, so to speak. I mean, it's not a perfect analogy here, but if I or anyone else who is depressed is saying, please help me, I don't know what to do, I want to die, don't ever tell them that they're just seeking attention. As if that's some minor thing. As if it's something that is not actually destroying them. Because a little human kindness can sometimes set that destruction aside. I know I feel better when I have the chance to talk to someone when I'm at my lowest points. I know that I actually can come back from the brink when I have someone who listens to me when I'm at my worst. And if you're the sort of person who takes an invitation to vulnerability to attack that person, with no exaggeration, you are the lowest of the low. If you do it for amusement, if you do it for fun, if you do it because you don't see that person as deserving of kindness, or as if they need to be taught a lesson, or if you think that the world is truly better off without them, you are disgusting. And I say this with every bit of vitriol because I have seen people who will outright do everything they can to try and drive a person who is depressed to hurt themselves or worse. So don't do that. Do not do that. And if you do, then, well, I mean, there's not much that I can do about that. If I have enough information on you, I'm calling the police because you will have had a hand in assisting suicide, which is an illegal thing to do. But I'm telling you and trying to appeal to you as a human being. Don't do that. Don't hurt someone who's already suffering enough. Don't drive them past that point. So obviously I've been talking about this for some time now. I know it's a little rambly. I know it's a little disjointed. Like I said, not scripted or anything like this. I just wanted to talk about it. If you feel like you need to talk about it yourself, I encourage you to leave comments on this video. If someone says something to you that hurts you on my video, I will make sure to take care of it as best I can, because this is a vulnerable topic for many people, and depression is one of those things where it makes you an easy target, and it's really hard to open up about it, but it can be one of the most liberating things to actually discuss what's going on up here, what's hurting you, what's driving you insane. Perhaps not the best word for it, but what it feels like. Like everything is jumbled and everything is foggy and distant and imprecise, and information gets lost somewhere along the way, so you don't always remember everything. Being able to talk with someone helps you to sort that out, and I want to invite you to do so, in the comments here. If you need to send me a personal message, I can try to respond. I can't always guarantee that I'll always be in the best mindset to respond, but I will listen. I will always listen, because I know what it's like to be ignored. So, thank you to everyone who watched this far. This is not an easy topic. And, I hope that those of you who have felt alone know that you're not alone. And those of you who have not experienced depression yourselves, maybe you understand a little more, or maybe you're more curious to know what happens when you're depressed. I don't recommend walking up to a depressed person and asking them how it feels, because that can also be kind of triggering. But wanting to open the lines of communication is important. So, thank you to everyone for watching. I really do wish you the best, and every bit of happiness, because you deserve it. Thank you.